Okay, I'm Jean Iris Clendenen. I was born in Kansas City, Missouri in 1940. Our father was training to be a butcher, and we went to Kansas City, Missouri for a few months. And we were only there a couple months after we were born, on August the 26th, 1940. And then we moved back to Stillwater, Oklahoma. From Stillwater, Oklahoma, we came to California.
Hold it. Are you a twin?
Yes, I am a twin.
So you have a twin sister then? So
Right.
was she everything? Every time you talk about being born, she was also born.
That's right. Joan was born either 6 or 8 minutes before I was.
Wow.
I was a latecomer. And she's Joan Irene, and I'm Jean Iris. I was named after my mother, my maiden name Iris, and Joan was named after my mother's sister. Her name was Irene, her first name. And we came to Vacaville in about 1941. We lived in Oakland for a short time in an apartment, and Daddy was a butcher at Purity Markets in Oakland. He rode the town city transit to work every day. And this is Mother and Daddy on their 60th wedding anniversary. It's taken at 300 Magnolia Street. It's a special flower arrangement that Jean Clendenen made. I made myself. Mother and Daddy weren't feeling too well that day, but they gave in and let me take their picture. It's a beautiful picture. After about a year then in Oakland, we decided Daddy wanted to go out in the countryside, so we moved up to Vacaville. And eventually he was foreman of a 400-acre fruit ranch that was owned by someone who had come over from Germany, Walter Bream, and Daddy happened to find this job, and we lived there for 4 or 5 years until it was time to move to town because the twins had to start first grade.
Who are the twins?
The twins are Jean and Joan.
Oh, are you Jean?
Yes, I'm Jean.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right, okay.
So we moved to town, and first we rented in Tantilio's apartments. It was a big old 3-story house, and then we eventually moved across the street, and we lived in the basement of this other house. It was a very nice basement, and we rented from Mrs. Altieri, and she was delightful. And as little kids, she let us come up and do her dusting for her because we needed something to do, and she was very good to us. And we could look out from our bedroom window and see our cousin Bernard was going to high school at that time, and we could look out and see his old Model A convertible that he was driving to high school. And we really thought that was something. And back in those days, that was before you had refrigerators. All you had was ice. You'd put ice in the old refrigerators, and we'd have to put the sign out in our bedroom window because it faced the street, so that when the iceman come by, he'd know to stop and deliver a big chunk of ice to us for our refrigerator. And that's how we kept our refrigerator cold.
How long did that ice last? A day?
The ice probably lasted a good week, I would think.
Wow.
Well, I think I don't know for sure, but I think maybe a week. They didn't come that often, it didn't seem like, but as a kid, I didn't think about that.
So they made the ice in a factory?
Yes, they made the ice in a factory, and you bought it. It was McCune's ice. McCune's ice.
How big was the big thing of ice?
It probably weighed maybe 10 pounds.
Wow.
The ice, a chunk of ice would have. Yeah. And I can remember one time Joan and I were having a good time, and Daddy had brought home some beer, and we were sitting out in front, and we had a bottle of beer, and it happened that Louis Polito drove by, and he was delivering groceries, and he saw us out there with our bottle of beer, and so he did nothing, but after he delivered his groceries, he went back to the store that Daddy was working at as a butcher, Solano County Grocery, and he told Dad about, I guess maybe he stopped and talked to Mother about us drinking this bottle of beer out front. Mother had no idea. Joan and I were sharing this bottle of beer. We were having a good time. We had no idea what we were doing.
Well, how old were you then?
We're probably maybe between 6 and 7 years old.
Oh, okay.
And so then after the 3rd grade, we lived up on the hill there.
What was the name of your first elementary school?
First elementary school would have been in Vacaville. I don't even
it was in Vacaville.
Yeah, everything was in Vacaville.
Oh, so what year, how old were you when you moved to Vacaville?
We had our second birthday at the Bream Ranch. So we had, our first birthday was in Oakland. No, just second. Our first birthday was still in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And that's August 26th. And then shortly after that, evidently, we moved to Oakland. And I think we had our second birthday in Oakland.
Well, how many brothers and sisters? Oh, you have Joan and Juanita.
Yeah,
so it's 3 girls.
Yeah.
Total of 3 girls.
Yeah.
How much
Nita
later?
wasn't born until while we lived on the Bream Ranch. My mother got pregnant with Juanita, our baby sister, and she was born in 1944, I guess.
Oh, okay. You guys were born in 1940?
Yeah, she's about 3.5 years younger than we are. She was born on May 26th, I don't know, 1944, I guess.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, but that happened.
When's your birthday?
August 26th, 1940.
Oh, yeah, you said that already.
Yeah.
And when is Joan's birthday?
Joan's birthday happened to be the same day as mine. I don't know how that could be.
Well, you guys could be twins.
That's right. I think we are. Hi, I'm Jean. I'm going to give you a little history of the family with some family pictures. The first one is of our father when he's 13 years old, dressed up, undoubtedly getting ready to go to church. The next picture is the one of Saturday Club, where Mother has made our outfits, our bonnets, our cummerbunds. We're going to give out programs that day. It's the 50th anniversary of the Saturday Club. What a special treat to be invited to give out the programs. We were the only children there. The next picture is the old farmhouse at the Eldon's Dairy, which he bought about 1948. The old farmhouse burned probably in the 70s. The next picture is of Mother in high school in 1937, her senior picture from high school. The next picture down is all of us dressed up in our formals, getting ready to go to a Rainbow Girls meeting. Rainbow was so important at that time. We had a very large organization, probably 60 girls in the choir alone. The next picture is Mother and Daddy at the chicken ranch, dolled up, probably Easter Sunday, getting ready to go somewhere special, probably to Eldon's Dairy for dinner. The next picture is a group picture, a family picture of all 3 of us. Joan and I are about 21 years old in that picture. It's a lovely picture. A private photographer came to the house and took pictures of it, of all of us. Anyway, that's a nice group picture. The next picture is all 3 of us girls getting ready to go to Easter Sunday services at the Vacaville Community Church, one of only 2 churches in town at that time. You were either Catholic or you went to the Christian church. The other next picture is at the Vacaville Poultry Market that Mother and Daddy bought in 1952. It eventually became Vasquez's Deli.
Well, so your first elementary school was something, Vacaville something.
Vacaville High School. Vacaville.
Oh, yeah, what was the name of your high
School.
school? What was
Right down from the high school. They were both there. Just up from where the store is, basically. The old grammar school and the old high school right there on the hillside together. And about 1951, the old high school was an old wooden building and it burned to the ground.
Wow.
After Daddy worked as a butcher in 1948, about 1948 at Solano County Grocery. And I can remember the unions had just started people working on Sundays. Up until that time, grocery stores were closed on Sunday. And we were invited to Vic Hansen's wedding out in the countryside. And I didn't understand why Daddy didn't go with us. And Mother said, well, the unions have people working on Sundays now. The grocery stores are open for the first time. So Daddy didn't get to go to Vic Hansen's wedding.
Who's Vic Hansen?
Vic Hansen was a dear friend of our friend Bernard, our cousin Bernard.
Oh, okay.
The fellow that had gone to Vaca High and drove the little coupe. And so we knew Vic Hansen and did for many years. And we went to him and his wife's wedding that was out in Pleasance Valley. The reception was held at her parents' home. It's an old farmhouse there. It's still there today. and it brings
Oh,
back
the farmhouse is?
the farmhouse.
What street is that on?
No, it's out in the countryside. It's out in Pleasance Valley Road.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Beautiful old Pleasance Valley. It just goes on forever, and it's very historical, that whole
So
area.
what was your, where did, what house, what was the address of your house?
I'm
Do you
trying to think
remember?
where we lived. I think we still lived in the
Oh, the basement.
In the basement.
Oh,
we
yeah, that's right.
were
You were
still in
living
the
in
basement at that time.
Right,
and then
right.
in third grade, we bought the chicken ranch out in the country.
Wow.
Daddy, in the summertime, his brother would talk him into getting into harvesting. He'd leave a perfectly good job and go into harvesting. His brother would talk him into it. And sometimes, one time he went up to Idaho, and after he harvested the wheat, then he harvested beans. For a very well-known family up in that area. Idaho.
What was your dad's brother's name?
Eldon was our dad's brother's name, but Eldon never had a harvester. Eldon always promoted these deals, but it was his son. It would be his. Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
I have to stop. Charles. Bernard would go with Daddy, and they go up to Idaho and harvest in the summertime.
So what is your first grade teacher's name?
I didn't have a very good first grade teacher.
Oh,
She was
yeah.
very unhappy. She was going through divorce. I don't have fond memories of my first
What about
grade.
second grade? Did you have
My
any
second
cool
grade
teachers?
My second grade teacher I dearly loved. It was Mrs. Youngblood.
Oh,
Her
good.
husband was principal of the high school there at that time. Okay, Mother did take us to the movies when we were about 2 years old, and because when we lived out in the Bream Ranch, but because we never sat still, they never took us back. And we saw what was Annie's name? Annie, get your gun.
Annie Oakley?
Yeah, Annie Oakley. We saw Annie Oakley at that movie. Yeah, that was her movie, and. But they got so disgusted with us, they never would take us back because we wouldn't sit. So I know very little about movies. In high school, I always liked the patriotic songs. I always liked marches, always liked parades, because Daddy had played a musical instrument in high school, and Mother always sang in the church choir and the glee club in high school. And so she liked those things. So we were taught to really appreciate the patriotic songs.
Did you ever play instruments in the band or anything?
I did play piano.
Oh, you did? Wow.
Yeah.
That's why you're so good on the piano.
No, not really. I'm not, no comparison to Bill Linderman, but I did take piano lessons. For about 7 years, I took piano lessons, but the piano teacher would quit every summer, so I never really got ahead too much. It seemed like we had to start over where we had left off. But I did enjoy the piano.
You have a piano in your house.
Yeah, I do have a
Oh,
piano.
you have a piano at your house. Wow.
I have a very old piano that was rebuilt. That's over 100 years old.
Huh.
Yeah, it's got
What
carving.
brand is it? Do you know?
No, I don't know the name of that.
Yeah.
It's been too many years. I don't even play it anymore.
Uh-huh.
So then after high school, I did go to JC, and I did graduate from JC,
What's JC?
junior college.
Oh, okay.
We went to Sac State our freshman year and flunked out. So then we went back to JC in Vallejo, and that was wonderful. We met good friends, and we really fit into our junior college. We did commute from Vacaville with our car, Joan and I did, and we made lifelong friends there at the junior college, and we always got a lot out of that. And I graduated from JC, and then, let's see.
So you graduated from junior college. Oh, wow. What courses did you take when you were junior college?
Just the regular courses.
English,
Yeah.
math.
Yeah, probably planned to be a teacher.
Wow.
And then it wasn't within the next 2 years. Then I married my first husband,
Oh, wow. What was his name?
Wally.
Well, where did you get married? What city?
I got married. I married Wally Dale in 1964
Was he from
on April the
Vacaville?
19th. He was someone I had met at a party that I had gone to on New Year's Eve. We dated for 2 years before we got married. He was 10 years older than I was,
Oh, wow.
and
Huh.
yeah, that was the big problem. He was too old for me.
Yeah, and so where'd you get married?
We
Was
got
it
married at a
Vacaville?
community church that we had grown up in.
Okay, so he was from there also.
No, he was actually from Illinois, and he had come up from the Bay Area to a Christmas Eve party or New Year's Eve party, and that's where I met him.
Wow.
And we dated for 2 years.
You dated while he lived in the Bay Area, and you guys would travel and.
Mm-hmm. Well, he worked at Lawrence Livermore Lab. He was a physicist at Livermore Lab, and we dated for a couple of years, and we got married.
Mm-hmm.
And we were married for 5 years before we had our daughter Beverly, and Beverly Jean Dale was her name.
Beverly Jean Dale?
Uh-huh.
How do you spell Dale?
D-A-L-E.
Oh,
Dale.
wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And,
Does she go by that name today?
Yeah, she does.
Wow, that's awesome. So what hospital was she born in, or was she born
She was born in Livermore.
Oh, so you ended up moving over to the Bay Area.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I moved from Vacaville to Livermore in 1964 after I got married. In April 19th, 1964, I got married, and I moved to Livermore. Yeah, and then my daughter. I worked at the bank, at 2 different banks, and then my daughter came in about 5 years later. She was born in '69. The year that they landed on the moon, she was born.
Wow.
I can still remember her putting her little chair and her little bassinet type thing and watching TV and watching the landing of the moon.
Wow.
In 1969.
Wow. Does she remember the landing of the moon, or was she too young?
I have no idea if she remembers it or not. She's probably too young. She was only just a few months old at that
Yeah,
time.
I bet she wasn't.
Yeah. She was born in February, and that landing was in July.
I think it takes a lot of focus,
February,
but you don't have a
April.
lot of focus when you're just a month
Five,
old.
yeah, she was only 5 months old. 5 or 6 months
Yeah,
old.
you don't have a lot of focus when you're only 5 months old.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're focusing on eating and sleeping. You know.
Right, yeah. Growing.
Growing up, yeah. Getting bigger. So,
So then
wow.
I divorced Wally in 1977.
You divorced him?
And then in 1978, I remarried and married Larry Clendenen.
Only year later.
I was only 1 year later. And we only dated for a couple months, but I could identify with him. He was an old farm boy, and because of my cousins we'd go up to the ranch often. We were close to our cousins that grew up on a dairy, and so we'd go up and spend time with them almost on a regular. We saw them at least once a week. They didn't live but just a few miles from us, probably 4 miles from our house. And Dad was very close to his older brother, and so we'd go up and visit Eldon and the boys. There were 4 boys in that family. Jerry's only 6 months younger than we are. So we always played cowboys and Indians with him, and we had fond memories of him on the dairy. And then
What
Beverly
town?
was 7 years old when I married Larry Clendenen.
Oh, okay.
And everything seemed to be fine. We didn't have. Larry never communicated very much. He's a very private individual. So I didn't realize, looking back now, I realized that Beverly didn't really have necessarily a happy childhood where you communicated with your adult friends. But she did graduate from Livermore High School.
Oh, she did. Livermore High School.
And she went to USC.
Is that high school still around?
Yes. Very old high school. Been there for years.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course you have.
Where'd she? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Beverly is graduated. She studied political science and history, and she graduated from University of Southern California. She won a scholarship to go to school down there, and then she worked part-time too, and she did graduate.
Wow, that's awesome.
Larry was single, and I had been single, and he went to use a Xerox machine where he worked, and he got to talking to my best friend, Marianne Green, and he asked her if she knew of anyone who didn't drink or smoke and
Or cuss?
had good horse sense. And she said, yeah. She said, I have a friend, my friend Jean, that is divorced, and she's kind of looking for someone to date. So he called me on the phone. We talked for over an hour that first time that we
Wow.
talked. So then we had a date. We went out to dinner in the next to the bay, into San Leandro. We went. Blue Dolphin was the name of the restaurant. Very. Very beautiful restaurant. And we sat and talked before we ever went in the restaurant. And when he found out that I was a Goldwater supporter. That pretty much cinched the marriage because he said, I've never met a woman that was conservative like you.
Wow.
So that was kind of fun, and we both got a kick out of that.
Have you been conservative all your life?
I have been conservative all of my life, yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And yeah, so anyway, Larry, we lived in Livermore then for another probably 10 years, and then when he retired, he was 50. He was 55, and I was 50, and he wanted to retire up to the rice country so he could go hunting and fishing. And so we retired to Chico, California.
Yeah.
And Mother and Daddy were both still living at that time, so I didn't want to leave California. So we went to Chico, and he's hunted on a hunting club up there for the last 55 years. And he had his hunting club, and then we live close to the Sacramento River, so he can go fishing for fresh salmon, and those are his two main interests. So we've lived there now for we have completed about 30 years.
Wow. And that's where you live now, huh?
And that's where we live now, is in Chico. And we've enjoyed it. We have 2 acres, and he has a little orchard, and we have a few fruit trees, and he has this little garden, and he keeps it all very disc, and we have a nice home that's been designed by an architect, so it's well laid out. So we've had a good life up there.
Oh, that's wonderful. And
So
you're healthy and strong?
Yes, and I'll be 80 this August, and
Wow.
I feel really, really healthy and strong.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So this is the end of my video.
Okay, and well, thank you, Jean Clendenen. What's your middle name?
It's Jean Iris.
Jean Iris Clendenen. And the year, it's June 11th, 2020. Okay, well, Jean, thanks so much. I just have about 8 more questions. We'll make this real quick. And you can turn this way so you're not in the sun and you're not getting, you know, I know it's hot out here. It's a blistering 90 degrees. And I'm from Phoenix, where it gets to be, right now, it'll be 120. But not this year. It can get up to 125 in Phoenix. Yeah. Yeah, well, we're having fun, aren't we? We're out here fixing everything and having fun.
And can't remember.
Oh, that's okay.
Bill has come to visit from Phoenix to help repair a few things around Joan's house.
Yeah.
We always enjoy having him. He can repair just about anything. He's definitely a maintenance man plus.
Well, the good news is we never run out of things to fix.
That's the truth. Okay, I want to be sure to mention my daughter Beverly. She's 51 years old now, but when I met my dear friend Mary Ann Green, the one who introduced me to Larry, when I got ready to buy a baby bed when Beverly was going to be born, I went and asked Mary Ann about a baby bed, and she had one that her daughter had used. And her daughter's name is Sherry, and she's 5 years older than Beverly, but they're like sisters, were for a long time. And so I ended up buying Sherry's baby bed for my daughter, and that's been a lifelong friendship that I made.
Wow, and you've been friends how long?
51 years.
Wow. Yeah. Where'd you meet her? In Vacaville?
I met Mary Ann in Livermore.
Oh, wow.
She is the one that introduced me to Larry.
She's the one right. She's the one that introduced you.
Yeah.
So she worked at the same place as Larry. Was she a physicist also?
No, she wasn't a physicist. Mary Ann was the secretary at Lawrence Livermore Lab for a long time. I don't know how many years.
What kind of work did Larry do when he was working?
Larry was an electronics engineer.
Oh, okay.
And he traveled to Nevada test site for 12 years before we were married. And then after that, he did stay there. But he did a lot of experiments. He worked with Reagan Star Wars, did a lot of integrative, great stuff. He really enjoyed his work at the lab.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
Hi, Jean.
Hi.
What is it like being a twin?
Well, you always have a friend. You always have someone to help you make decisions. And you get a lot of attention, especially when we were twins, because back then it was very unique to be a twin. Now you have so many, it's rare that people even notice you. We always had white hair, which was very unusual. We never dyed our hair. It never turned most people, when they get to be 12, 13 years old, their hair, if they're blondes when they're young, they become brown or black-headed. And our hair always stayed very white, very, very blonde. Everybody always wants to know, did you switch teachers? That's always the first question.
Oh,
And
playing
that's
the
when
trick
it's-
on the teachers?
Playing tricks on the teachers. We were way too shy. My gracious, we would never have done anything like that. The next question is always, did you swap dates?
Oh, yeah.
And one time, my first husband came to the door in Vacaville, and Joan answered the door, and she jumped back, and Wally says, "Oh," Joan says, "Oh, you think I'm Jean?" And so that was one of the fun things that happened. And a lot of times people they never knew which one was Joan and which one was Jean, even our cousins. And even our mother and dad, a lot of times would confuse our voices sound too much alike. They couldn't tell which one was talking. So that was interesting.
Oh, yeah, right. So, were you in the same class during...
We were never in the same class at school. That was very controversial.
Oh, yeah.
Back then, and even the relatives got involved, and mother said, well, it's none of their business, it's not their children, but they wanted us to both be in the same classes. And I think for the most part, especially in grammar school, we're always in the same class. We were in different classes in grammar school.
But in high school, were you ever
In
in the
high
same
school,
classes?
we maybe picked some of the same classes, but for the most part, we weren't in the same classes. Yeah. But I always thought I was going to try to get ahead of Joan, and I tried to swim faster than her, and guess what? Both of our heads would bob up at the same time in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
So one never got ahead of the other.
Oh, wow. So you're not really competitive.
Not competitive at all. We always thought we could be, and somehow we have no idea what that even is, I don't think.
Oh, that's funny. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Okay. Well,
Very easygoing, passive. Didn't know what anger was until after I was married. We had a lot of love and attention at home. Mother and Daddy were always very fair. What one twin got, the other twin got. They always tried to be very fair with all three of us. And Mother had a very hard life as a child, and she always tried to be very fair with us. Always made sure that we had new clothes for school and new shoes, and always took good care of us.
Oh, that's good.
Was
Did
a
you
real
always
mother.
wear-
Was
did
a
you-
real mother.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Did you always wear the same clothes and all that?
We wore the same clothes in grammar school a little bit. I guess we dressed alike when we were in grammar school, yeah. And in high school, we started to change a little bit. We didn't always. I don't really remember. It's been so long ago. Joan could probably answer that question better than I could. But in grammar school, I think we did dress alike almost entirely. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You bought the same outfits, or your mom made the same outfits?
Yeah, we bought the same outfits. Yeah,
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
Huh.
And just like today, when we go to the Twins Convention, we're always looking out for outfits. Like, she bought the tops in Texas for our mother's 100th birthday, and I bought some tops yesterday when I was out. I happened to see, and I liked them. I bought an extra one for her. She may not like it, but I can always take it back. But we're constantly looking for things alike that we can wear to the Twins Convention, because they're there. Everybody does dress alike.
Oh, okay, yeah. So who learned to drive first, you or your twin, Joan?
Oh gosh, we both would have learned to drive
Sister
at the
Joan.
same time.
Oh, okay.
When we go out to the dairy to our cousins for get-togethers and stuff, and we were 15 and 16, our father, there was a little country road there, little graveled road, and Daddy would let us drive on that little country road to learn to get the feel of the car.
Oh, neat.
That was very important.
And you were
to him.
15?
Yeah, we were 15, probably 15 and a half, maybe 16, but Daddy thought it was important that we get the feel of the car. I never forget how he said that. And so there was a little country road there, probably a mile long, so we got to drive up and down that country lane.
That's great. What kind of car did you drive?
It was always a Ford. Daddy always bought Fords. Our father loved cars all his life. We had 7 new pickups during the time, in the 25 years they were in business, they had 7 new pickups.
What
Most
kind of
of them
Ford did
Fords.
you drive, start on?
Huh?
What kind of Ford did you learn to drive on? Was it a pickup?
No. He always made sure he got the automatic shift for us. We never learned to drive with a stick shift. He always, when the pickups came out at that time, they just started having the automatic shifts in them, and he always made sure that he got an automatic shift. So if we had to go pick up chicken somewhere, like all the way over to Petaluma, which was at least 75 miles one way, then we could drive it with no problem. So he always, and he bought Fords for a long time, and then eventually he did buy what he called Jimmy's, which of course was General Motors.
Right. Oh, that's neat. So when did you both get a job? What were your first jobs?
Gosh, we mostly worked in the store, and then once I left Vacaville, I went to San Jose for a short time, and when I was there, I worked in a credit union.
Oh yeah.
For about a year or two, and then I decided to get married. So then I came back home and got married. And
Didn't your sister Joan? Didn't she also work in a bank?
Yes, she did. Joan worked in downtown Sacramento at Bank of America for a few years before Dick and her were married. I'm not sure about that.
Is that where she met Dick?
Yeah, she would have been working there, I think, when she met Dick. She met Dick. She was out sweeping the sidewalk, and he happened to drive by and see her. And then they have originally before that, I think she had gone into a shoe store with Nita, and he was selling shoes in there, and he started talking to her then. And then I think he looked her up after that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. Thanks very much for talking about what it's like to be a twin.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much for listening to my program.